Hi there, Malcolm here with my 249th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you May's wrap-up. Now, as I've done a lot of individual videos for the various books here, I'll just mention that I've read it and then go check out the links to those quite short reviews if you want to see a more detailed breakdown of what I thought about each book. But first off, the numbers, and as usual I shall compare against the same time last year. So I managed 10 books, one less than the 11 from last year, at 2,128 pages, which is about 30 more than last year, and 26.03 hours, which is about half last year. Bringing me to a running total of 63 books compared to 62 from last year. However, I'm only on 13,142 pages compared to 14,184. And at 111 hours, I'm about 66 hours behind last year. So I'm doing all right, but there's certainly room for improvement. Well, 10 books to get through, let's get cracking. So first up with my book of the month, Red Shirts by John Scalzi. A nice Star Trek send-up, really funny, booktastic. Go check out the link. And after that I then finished listening to The Dreaming Void by Peter F. Hamilton, which is part one of the Void trilogy, which in itself is the sequel trilogy to the Commonwealth saga. A bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Now, I really enjoyed the Commonwealth saga with this galactic civilization that was under threat from this insidious alien species. That was all resolved, and this is like a couple of thousand years later, and there's this void. Not so much a black hole, but an expanse of nothing that is causing a bit of consternation. And the story is split into two halves, alternating between the story about this void and people trying to poke it and find out what it does, and there's a cult who wants to go to it, and alien species threatening war if anyone pokes this thing, because I think leave it alone because it's dangerous enough as it is. And frankly, a whole bunch of stuff I wasn't all that interested in and didn't fully understand the relevance of. There's this dreamer who apparently who's started this cult and then gone off hiding somewhere, and a big chunk of the story is finding this dreamer. And yeah, I didn't quite get the main gist of any of that. Each alternating chapter actually takes place within the void on a planet in there, and it's almost a fantasy type story where we follow a young apprentice mind shaper thing, and they're all telepathic, but they have this third arm which is a focal point for telekinesis, and this guy's able to talk to animals and do all these things. Anyway, his village is sacked by raiders and he ends up going to the big city and becoming a constable. His story was rather different to the main story, and ironically far more preferable. I really enjoyed listening to his plight and how he goes forward, and his experiences being the constable and trying to right wrongs within the city. Felt very almost like Guards by Terry Pratchett, but less rhetorical, obviously. And the book finishes with him more or less graduating, being a constable, and this void still being there, but I don't know. There's 2 more books in the series. I do want to listen to them to actually find out where it's ending up, particularly following the guy following this constable. But I've been listening to a whole bunch of free stuff on Audible at the moment, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. It might be worth buying. I think it does depend on how the other 2 books turn out. And weirdly, it wasn't read to me by John Lee. He's read everything else by Peter F. Hamilton, and suddenly I've got this other chap does a reasonable job. I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, after that, I then read Bart Simpson's Treehouse of Horror, Book 2, Spine-Tingling Spooktacular. Unlike with the previous one, this is a series of short stories in the Treehouse of Horror type style. So we have Illustrative Man, who's covered in tattoos, and Bart and Lisa stare at these tattoos, and there's a few really short stories told within this short story, depending what tattoo they look at. That's quite a fun one. Lots of very tight stories in that. And then there's Metamorph Simpsons, where Homer wakes up one day to find he's a giant cockroach. A bit of a grim story, that one, as his family tried to cope with the fact that he's a giant cockroach, as does himself. And there's a little twist at the end. Clearly illustrated by somebody else, so you have a very different art style, kind of added to the grim content. And then we've got I Face Tannenbaum, the Christmas tree from another world, where the family bring home a Christmas tree and it happens to be evil. Kind of self-explanatory, really. Apu on Rigel 7. This is another alternate art style one. I really enjoyed this. Apu gets hold of one of Mr. Burns' gizmos and finds himself teleported to Vigil 7, where he goes on a little adventure. And there's some great fourth wall breaks and real hilarious digs. A very clever one. I really enjoyed that. And then we have Young Frankenstein, where Bart gets involved in a car accident and gets involved in one of Professor Frinks' experiments. So it's a twist on the Frankenstein story. And then we have a fun zombie one. I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but it's the giant stone head that Homer gets from Mr. Burns as a white elephant present. So the South Americans turn up to provide some sacrificial gifts to the giant head, lots of food, and unfortunately Homer finds it and eats it, and the dead come to life and start roaming the streets. A lot of fun, that one. And then we have Dark Lisa, which is basically Carrie but following Lisa Simpson instead. Yeah, that's quite a fun one as well. And of course, like with most Simpsons graphic novels, it's also chock through of other bits and pieces. So you've got Bart's Trick or Treat Safari, other tips and tricks and mini stories, Monty Kills a Mummy, things like that. So there's a lot of content stuffed in these books. A lot of fun. Booktastic. After that, I then read Star Wars New Jedi Order Dark Tide Book 1 Onslaught by Michael A. Stackpole, and it's book 2 of the New Jedi Order series, where the Yuzong Vong, having been thwarted in Vector Prime, book 1, have another crack at it, but in a less subtle way. Part 1 of duology, and is a nice self-contained book in its own right, which is really nice. Doesn't feel like half a story. Anyway, there is a link below when I'll do a review for both books, so go check that out. After that, I then read, I should say, finish reading The Lords of Uncreation by Adrian Tchaikovsky to my wife. This is the final book of the Final Architecture trilogy, where Earth has been destroyed by giant moon-sized things like that. And during the course of book 2, we learn there's a force behind these architects, these Lords of Uncreation, and so our heroes go and try and stop them at the source, as it were. Again, I've done an individual video on all 3 of these books. I'll leave a link to that one below, but it was booktastic. And after that, I then read or finished listening to The Dogs of War by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is on Audible, and I listened to this because this is free. Might still be free, go check it out. Highly recommend this one. This was absolutely fantastic. All about created weapons of war, but happen to be individual beings in their own right. Do go and listen to that if you haven't already, or go and get it. It's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, there's a link down below. Go check out my review for that one. And then after that, I then read Batman Hush, where Batman basically faces off against virtually every single villain he normally comes across because of an overarching bad guy up to no good. Absolutely brilliant. If you enjoyed the Arkham games, definitely give this one a go. Again, there is a video link below for my review for that. And after that, I then read Long Gone Don and the Terracotta Army. This is book 2 of series of, so far 2 as far as I'm aware, by the Levington Brothers. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Done a video. Go check it out if you want. And then after that, I then read the second book in the Dark Tide duology. Obviously concluded the story set up in Onslaught, but again felt like a book in its own right. So really impressed with that. It's the same link for the 2 videos. And then after that, I then read Doctor Who Borrowed Time by Naomi A. Alderman, featuring Matt Smith's 11th Doctor, Rory Williams and Amy Pond. A lot of fun. Done a video on that. Go have a look-see. So there we go. That was my May reading. Not bad. Could have been better. I'm still trying to catch up from last year. I need a good reading month, really. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Comments down below, please, for books you liked, books you didn't like, books you'd like to try, or books you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Everything's valid, but as usual, if you have nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and other YouTubey things if you want. And until next time, see you later.